Yeah, I'm Nadeem Mazen. I'm the CEO of DangerAwesome, and we're making the world's best professional laser cutter under $10,000. Huge cost savings compared to what's out there today.
And can you kind of tell me like why go into this instead of like 3D printers, which is like where everyone else is?
Yeah, well, when I was at the MIT Media Lab, people were obsessed with the laser cutter. I was obsessed with the laser cutter as a neuroscientist, right? I was making the devices for my neuroscience research. I was making fine art, and I was actually selling it. This is the machine that's faster. The output that the machine makes is more professional. So people are making everything from like big fancy designs to tiny jewelry on Etsy to architectural models, and it moves. These products are really impressing people because when you cut out like a beautiful rich piece of wood and you cut it into that perfect shape for that perfect gift, or you paper cut something that's so intricate, entire businesses, even other Techstars businesses have been founded on the power of laser cutters. So we want to make sure that that device is cheaper, more powerful, a little bit easier to use, because as people go to their library, as they go to their school, as they go to their creative or community space, there's a huge need for that type of fast feedback creativity. I want to be able to take something in my mind and make something really powerful in a matter of minutes. With a 3D printer, you're waiting hours to make something that's really, in my experience, not that good if you're in the under $10,000 price point. And once you start getting into, the $100,000 or $1 million machine, yeah, maybe you can make something in metal, but you kind of have to be a genius to get there. We find that people take to laser cutters so quickly, and they really fall in love with these machines. They become zealots, and they wonder, how can I get my own? Until they find out that the average laser cutter costs $50,000.
Right. And so, can you talk at all about like what kind of price point you're aiming for?
Yeah, we're going for the sub $10,000 price point with an aim to land between $5,000 and $6,000. We've made some really big changes to like the housing of the machine and how it's procured and assembled that reduce cost, to the laser module itself going to solid state, and reducing size and cost, increasing power density. So some of the technical changes we're making, which are probably boring to your viewers, are really important for the end cost and for making something that looks more like a desktop inkjet printer rather than like this big metal behemoth from the 80s that belongs in like a machine shop or some kind of space age lab. We're making something that belongs in your firm, in your small business, in your community center.
So you were at the MIT Media Lab. What else about your team makes you the team that will be able to do this?
Yeah, so we actually started kind of out of the Media Lab. My friend Ali and I started this storefront that engaged people in lasers and 3D printing and all kinds of other stuff. And again, we found the need for laser cutting 10 to 1 over 3D printing, and that's still true today. People need the professional laser cutter to get real valuable output in a way that they don't seek even a high-power 3D printer. In terms of my experience, I've been using and then now making laser cutters for some time, but our real kind of ace is this guy, our CTO, Calvin James. And he has been importing and modding and hacking and designing from scratch laser cutters for years and years for professional fabrication houses, for huge operations, for little community centers and schools. He's the person leading our 3-person industrial engineering team and our 2-person design team in actually bringing this together in the most cost-effective way. And he and I together, I spent a lot of time in China over the last several years. He and I together are engaging in all the cost-cutting and the outsourcing, bringing in some commodity parts from China together, but also making and assembling a lot of key parts here, and then ultimately assembling and distributing from within the USA, which we think is really important.
And besides your own experience, and we're wrapping up, what else tells you about, what does the market tell you about if there's a need for this?
What's really cool, actually? There was a lower cost, but also much lower power laser cutter that was released on a Kickstarter recently, and they raised not a Kickstarter, like a Kickstarter knockoff.
Right.
They raised $27 million in 1 month. And it's because all of the deep desire for laser cutters, it's latent, it's out there, and that $27 million is just a very small chunk for low power users at a somewhat lower price point. Of course, that machine, true to many Kickstarters, is shipping a year late, and there's things that aren't quite working yet, and people are kind of patiently waiting. But we're coming into the professional or prosumer level. We're seeing a huge user base that when we call people, we're like, 35 for 35 of people who said, yes, when you deliver at this price point, we've been waiting for an update to software and hardware. We've been waiting for the better power density, and we've been waiting for a reasonable price point, in some cases for years. And so not only do we demonstrate that the consumer market and that the latent interest is there through other people's very impressive work, but we see in our market research and in our kind of presence in the community, talking with a lot of these power users, that they are just ready in huge numbers. Every